Hey friends, it's Simon Hurley and welcome to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking all about Lunar Paste. This paste has truly been one of my favorite products that I've used on almost all of my card making projects, whether it's a little accent or I'm using it to give a bunch of shine on the background. There's so many different ways to use it besides just spreading it through a stencil. And so today I'm going to share all of the different amazing uses for it on your projects. And if you're watching the video right when it came out, I have some exciting news for you. So this is the regular size jar of Lunar Paste. It is 2 ounces. And right now, Scrapper.com is having a promotion where you can get a little baby 1 ounce jar for free. That's right, I said for free. It's so exciting. So all you need to do is go over and make a purchase with Scrapper.com. I'll have a link down below. And you have to add this little 1 ounce jar to your cart and you'll get it completely for free. This is while supplies last, so you've got to hurry over there and check it out. But it's so exciting. So if you've been wanting to try out Lunar Paste, you can add it to one of your orders. You can also throw in a bunch of other colors of Lunar Paste and get this one for free. It's the slippery and wet color, which is so useful. And if you're watching after the promotion ends, don't worry, all of these tips still apply, and I'll have links down below to all the other Lunar Paste in the collection that you guys can check out. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. Now this product is a paste, so let's first start off with some stenciling techniques. I'm going to share several ways you can apply it through stencils to get different effects. So I'm going to start off by creating my own colored cardstock using a little bit of Game Over ink. So all I'm doing is going on to my stark white cardstock with a blending tool. Here I'm using the mini ink blending tool with the domed foam blender, and I'm just going to go in and cover this whole cardstock with some ink. I really like my inks for this because they go on super smooth, especially with this blender. It takes little to no effort to apply lots of color down to the surface and get your own sort of colored cardstock. I'm only going to use about this much, so I didn't go the full way down, but look at how nice and bold that color is onto the cardstock. So this is a great hack to kind of match the color exactly with whatever ink color you're using. All right, and the cool part about this is I'm now going to go in using the Sweater Weather stencil. I really love this one for winter cards, and I think this is going to create a really kind of fun sweater pattern on top of the red background. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of mint tape, and I want to just make sure this isn't going to move, so I'll tape down my cardstock, and then I'm going to grab my stencil, place it down, and then I'll use some mint tape to hold the stencil down as well. And here's what's so cool is that each Lunar Paste has a matching color of ink in the Simon Hurley Create line. So I'm going to go in using Game Over Lunar Paste, but of course you could do this with any of the colors, and they match pretty much perfectly. And I'm going to go in using my palette knife from the paste tool set, and I'm just going to apply my Lunar Paste down onto the surface. Now I like to apply kind of lots of Lunar Paste at the top of the stencil like this. Once I've applied enough Lunar Paste onto there, I'm going to then go in with my scraper tool. This also comes in the paste tool set, and this is really nice for getting large surfaces. So what I'll go and do is I'll just go in and kind of spread this down the surface of my cardstock. And it's really easy to smooth over top of the surface and get a really nice pasted background. So instead of having this tool and kind of having to go throughout, this just scrapes it down, and you saw how simple and easy that was. And then what I'm able to do is take any of the excess that's left on that scraper tool, bring it with the palette knife, and put it right back in to my Lunar Paste so that you're not wasting any at all. And then it's a matter of just going in and simply cleaning off all your tools. So I'll go in and clean off my scraper and my palette knife, and I'll do the same thing with the stencil. All right, and this paste is super creamy, but yet it's still thick enough that it doesn't run underneath the stencil, and you get super clean and crisp lines. Now to let this dry, it doesn't take too long, but I also like to just go in with a heat tool. It's pretty heat stable, but you just want to keep your heat tool moving across the surface as you heat it up, and I'm just going to kind of aid this along in drying a little bit here. I'm just a little impatient, but you totally don't need to do this step. Just set it off to the side and let it dry if you'd like. And check that out when it's totally dry. It gains even more shine, and it's just such a beautiful paste. And what's cool is when it's tilted like this, it totally matches, and then you kind of get to see all of the shine when you tilt it into the light. That was one of the most basic ways to apply the Lunar Paste, and it's just gorgeous as is. But now let me show another way to stencil it if you want a quicker, less textured effect. Alright, so I'm going to go in using the Greenery stencil for this one, and I'm using a piece of dark burgundy colored cardstock because I want to show how great it stands out against dark colors. So I'm going to place this right on top, and again, we're going to use a little bit of that mint tape to hold it down nicely. And this time I'm going to use a sponge applicator to apply the Lunar Paste. You can either use the domed foam applicator or the round flat foam. Either one is going to work perfectly fine. I'm going to grab a domed foam for this instance. It's a little bit firmer. And then you can go in with your Lunar Paste. And here I'll use the slippery and wet color, which you can either get in this 1 ounce jar like I had mentioned, or of course purchase the 2 ounce jar. I'm going to grab this out of here with my palette knife, and then I'm going to put it onto the side on a silicone mat as kind of a palette. A little bit goes a long way, and you can always add it into the jar once you're done. And then I'm going to start tapping my blending foam right into there to pick up some of that paste. Again, a little bit goes a long way. You don't need a lot on your foam right away. And then I can go in through that stencil and start my blending. I'm gonna blend this on just like I normally would an ink. I'm gonna go in kind of circular motions and just tap it right through the stencil. Now, if you go in circular motions like I'm sharing, you get a really nice smooth effect. If you want sort of more texture, you can also go in and kind of pounce, and it's literally gonna hold all of that texture in there. So it just depends what look you like. I like that kind of swirled look where it's nice and smooth on the surface, so that's why I recommend going in circular motions like this. And again, a little bit goes a long way. If you apply too much, it can sometimes seep underneath the stencil, so you just want enough on your foam, but not too much. Now we're applying it really thin, so don't be afraid to go back in over some areas and thicken the paste up in that area, do a second layer, if you want it to be a little bit more opaque. And when I lift off my stencil, check out the beautiful results that we get. I love how shiny it is. It really looks like we almost foiled this design on here. The Lunar Paste is literally dry. This dries in a matter of like a minute since it's so thin, and it's so shiny. I love it. So if you want to save a little bit of time on drying time, applying it thin like this is the way to go. And it's still got a little bit of texture, but not a ton raised off the project. Now when it comes to using a foam applicator like this, I'm going to spray it down with a little bit of water. You could also pull it off and run it underneath the sink, but I'm just going to go in on a piece of paper towel and kind of blot this off to clean out my Lunar Paste until I see almost no more paste on the surface there. And that's going to really clean it up and make sure the foam is nice and soft for the next use. Because if it dries in there, it's gonna kind of harden. All right, now next I want to share just how beautiful Lunar Pastes are on embossing folders. So I'm going to go in using the Rose Bouquet 3D embossing folder from Altenew. I love this one and all that beautiful detail you can get with these florals. So I'm going to go in, place down a piece of black cardstock because again, they work really well on these darker colored cardstocks. Place it down where I want it. And then we'll run this through my die cutting machine. Now I'm using the Platinum 6 and each sandwich is a little bit different for embossing with different companies. So I'm going to use the platform base and the platform top for this Altenew embossing folder. Then I'll place in the Altenew folder and we're going to use one of the cutting plates as well and run that right through the die cutting machine. And there is so much texture and dimension that you're able to get with that 3D embossing folder. It really gives you so many details in the florals. All right, so what you're gonna wanna do is take your color of Lunar Paste. I'm gonna go in and grab the Slippery When Wet Lunar Paste again, and I'm just gonna go in with my finger. I like to use my finger here. Again, you could go in with the foam dauber if you want to, but I'm gonna go in with my finger here, and I apply a really thin amount. You can kind of scrape your finger on the side to just get a tiny little bit. And then I'm going to go in on the florals and really lightly go over top of the surface of the embossing folder. And the awesome part about these folders is your finger is going to kind of catch the raised areas and overlay them with color while still leaving some black areas of detail in there. I really love how it looks. So just get a little bit on your finger and then continue to go through and fill out the folder. And with this technique, really a little tiny bit goes a long way. That was only 2 little bits on my finger, and we've covered the whole floral entirely, and it gives it so much beautiful and incredible shine. All right, I'm gonna color the other flower yellow as well, so I'm gonna go in with a little bit more on my finger here, and then go through and apply it to this floral as well. And you can see why it complements the embossing folders so well, because it just hits the raised details and applies just such a beautiful shine and color to the surface. And for anybody worried about their fingers staining, it comes off really nice and easily. Just spray your finger with a little bit of water and wipe it off onto a paper towel, and your finger will pretty much come clean. And just wash your hands after you're done if you're worried about it. For the next floral, I'll go in using a little bit of Prom Queen Lunar Paste. Again, just taking a little tiny bit on the side of my finger there, and then I'm going to go in and lightly rub it over top of this beautiful rose floral. And I love that there are so many different colors to choose from in the line, so you can really have fun with playing with different colors on top of the dark cardstock. All right, now I've already mentioned when you apply Lunar Paste this thin, its dry time is pretty much nothing. So these are already dry and super shiny, and now I'm gonna go in and shade these. So for shading on top of the yellow, I'm gonna use a little bit of Roar, which is this beautiful and bold orange color. I'll apply just a little bit onto my finger, like we've been doing. A little bit goes a long way, especially when we're shading. And I'm just going to lightly touch the top surface of this area and apply a little bit of orange. Now, if you want to kind of spread it out with a different finger, you can go in there, and that's just going to kind of help blend it out a little bit. And then again, we can use the excess that's on our finger and go on the second flower here and blend a little bit of orange into this floral. Then for the pink floral, I'm going to use a lighter color. So since it's already dry and these are opaque, we can go on top using a little bit of the slippery and wet color. I'm just going to apply a little bit on my finger and then rub it onto the surface. And you can see just how beautifully these lighter colors blend on top of the darker colors as well. So I like to go in and highlight with lighter colors too to get this beautiful shimmery effect. And look how much it shines. Now for the leaves, I'm gonna go in using a little bit of Later Gator, which is this nice green color. And then I'll go in and go right on top of the leaves. And it's pretty easy to kind of stay inside of the design here. Just keep your finger with a really light pressure. And because it's a really raised surface, it should kind of stay inside of the lines. And then to add shading, I'm gonna go in using a little bit of fake plant. And then again, add a little bit of shading here and there on the leaves. And once this is all dry, check out the beautiful shine and color that you get. This is like an instantly finished card project, and you've got such a great focal point of the card. I also love that once it's dry, you can rub your whole hand over this and your recipient isn't gonna get any of that shine on their fingers. So once this stuff is dry, even though it's so shiny, it doesn't come off on anybody's hand. That was so important to me because I hate glitter. I don't like when things come off on your hand and it can be kind of annoying. So I love that it kind of stays put once everything is dry. All right, now I want to share another fun project using the scraper and your lunar pastes. So I'm gonna go all out with this one and use kind of a rainbow array of colors. So I'm gonna go in using my lunar pastes. I'm gonna pick them up with the palette knife here, and then I'll place it on the scraper. So we're using the paste tool set here to kind of make a palette of colors. I started off with some bee sting, and then I'm just going to quickly wipe it off on the side once I'm done with that color, and I'll move into the next one. We'll move into a little bit of Roar, which is this nice bright orange color, and I'll just add it right next to that color and kind of blend it together. You don't need a ton of each color on here. Then I'll bring in Slippery and Wet, and again, this is the little 1 ounce jar you can get as a free gift, but there's always that 2 ounce jar if you want another refill after you're done with this one. And moving into a little bit of Fake Plant, which is the darker green from the collection. I'll add a little bit of this color down. I love how bold these colors are. They're just beautiful. Then I'll move into a little bit of Clear Skies. Add it down. We're running out of room here on the bottom. And then last but not least, we'll add in a little bit of our purple, which is this beautiful triple berry color. This is one of my favorites. I'll blend that right down onto the bottom there. All right, and like I said, I went all out with a bunch of different colors, but you could just add like 3 different colors and still get a beautiful color blend with this. But what I'm gonna do is take my scraper now, and I'm going to press this down onto a piece of black cardstock, and then I'll slowly swipe upwards, and I'm gonna create kind of a beautiful rainbow pattern here. But like I said, do whatever pattern you want to. We could do this several times, kind of scrape that color and get them sort of blending together on the surface. And check that out. When we've swiped it like that, you get such a beautiful blend of colors. I love how that looks, so I'm gonna set this off to the side to dry. And then I'll bring in another piece of cardstock because we've still got so much more left on here. And with this one, I'm just going to go across the surface and I'm gonna kind of swipe it back and forth like this to get more of a unique kind of color blend like that. Check that out. So you could even kind of swirl it and get some cool marbled effects. And this one could be super cool to die cut something out of. All right, you guys, and check out how beautiful these are when they're totally dry. Now, I accidentally nicked this with my heat tool, so that's why there's that little imperfection, but I just love all the shine and how beautifully and smooth those colors blend together when you use the scraper tool like that. And I cannot wait to die cut something out of this one too, because you got such cool colors and pattern going through there. Last, I want to share how to do some stamping with Lunar Paste, and this one is so fun. So for this, I'm going to use the Bold Holiday Blooms Peel Apart Background Stamp, and what's so awesome about this is that all of the different florals peel out of the stamp, so you can use them individually. So I'll place these onto an acrylic block. I'll also use one of the smaller flowers, add that onto an acrylic block. Now when it comes to stamping with the Lunar Paste, we're going to follow a similar process. I'm going to take a little bit of Lunar Paste out of the jar using the palette knife from the paste tool set and add it down onto a silicone surface or a plastic surface that I can clean off easily. You want a nice thin layer when you're stamping like this. Then I'm going to go in, for this I like the domed blending foam since it's a little bit firmer than the other foam, and then I'm going to tap this into the surface there and not add too much down. We want just the right amount, and once you've done it a couple times, you'll learn kind of exactly what the perfect amount is. And then I'm going to lightly tap this right onto my stamp. Super simple to kind of apply this down onto the surface. Now once that's done, I want to quickly transfer this right over top to my stark white cardstock and not waste too much time on the surface. You want to quickly stamp it down to get that impression. Now if you hold this down for too long on your cardstock, it'll start drying to the cardstock, and then if you lift it off, it'll kind of rip it. So again, do that really nice and quickly and you'll get a great impression. And then to clean this off in those little grooves, I like to go in using a sort of stamp and scrub or a sponge. This is going to just help clean out those grooves and make sure that all of the lunar paste gets out of your stamp really nicely. So I really love that sponge for cleaning all the paste out of the crevices of the stamp. All right, for this large flower, I'm gonna use a little bit of Game Over to make it look like a poinsettia. And so again, what I'm going to do is take a little bit on my palette knife, create a little bit of a palette off to the side, and a little bit of this paste goes a long way when we're stamping with it. Apply it nice and thin, and then again, I'm gonna go in with the blending tool again, lightly tap it into my paste to get this blending tool coated, and then really lightly tap it into my stamp. And I'm not like firmly tapping it either. Again, I'm really light pressure with all of these different steps. And then once we've got it applied, we can easily stamp that down onto the surface and lift it off pretty quickly to get our result. All right, and once those are dried, they've got kind of a beautiful sheen to them. I really like it. And again, it dries super quickly since we've stamped it so thin on the surface. Then with these florals, I'm gonna go in using my Fiskars Spring Assist scissors, and I'm just going to quickly fussy cut these guys out, leaving a little bit of a white border all the way around the floral. And I love these scissors because they're easily able to get into little details. All right, and then to finish this off, I want some greenery, and the greens are all kind of attached in this background stamp, and you can't really peel them apart. So I'm just going to go in and ink up some different leaves. I've used a little bit of Latergator, and then I'm going in with some fake plant to add a little bit of darker color here and there for some shading. Then I'll bring in my stark white cardstock, place that right on top of the surface, and easily rub it all down to transfer the image. And then when I lift that off, we've got our greenery stamped down and we can easily fussy cut these out. Now to finish off this card, I'm gonna take a piece of my stark white cardstock and I'm just going to trim it down at a little bit of an angle. And this is just going to add a little bit more interest to my card. So I can add it down at the bottom here, and it still makes the background shine, but it gives a little bit of contrast here. All right, so I've arranged my leaves and I can place down my florals right on top. Place down the yellow flower right next to it. And I sort of made the bouquet follow the diagonal, and I love how this card comes together. That tone-on-tone background is just so rich and beautiful. And then finishing it off with those shiny, beautiful stamped florals is just stunning. So I hope you guys loved all of the different ways you can use Lunar Paste on your projects. It's so versatile. Again, take advantage of that deal while it lasts at scrapbook.com. I'll have links down below to check it out, and I'll have links down below to everything I used in today's video as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!